And hey, we're back. So we finished up cleaning up and tidied up a few more things since we ended the video and got a few things ready for the build. And now we're basically going to get into building this shelf storage unit. So it's a Montgomery 5-shelf metal storage unit. It's 1,830 mils high, or basically as high as me. It's 183 centimeters, or 6'1" in the old days. 1200 wide and 540 deep. So we've got 5 shelves, one down the bottom, one at the top, and 3 in the middle. There'll be brackets around either side, and actually 2 posts which go on top of each other and combine together with a small pin to hold them together. I've done a couple of these before, mostly with the Pinnacle brand, which seems very similar to this. I don't know if I've done a Montgomery before, but it all looks pretty much of a muchness. It's a fair bit cheaper than what I've paid for the Pinnacle ones before, but I figure for the plastic tubs and stuff like that, for what we're going to be doing with it in here, $50 it's going to do. So the tools, all I basically use is, I mainly just use a couple of rubber mallets. For a long time I had this one, which is your traditional rubber mallet, nice, big and heavy. But actually when I was trying to find one of these to buy for my dad, I discovered these little guys, and it's another rubber mallet, same sort of thing. This one's by Trojan, and it's about half the weight, and I actually find this one a lot easier to work with. There are times when I sort of still go and find the big fella, and again I think this is a Trojan from Bunnings. But I normally, if I'm just doing work around the shed and stuff, use this little fella. They're about $20, I want to say, only a couple of bucks cheaper than the big fella. But definitely use these sorts of things rather than a hammer. You won't damage the metal bracket and that sort of stuff. What else do we use? So I've just got an old awl. Eventually we'll end up screwing this into the wall to give it a bit of pullover protection. You know, when kids climbing up it or people pulling on things and having the whole thing fall down on top of itself. So I use the awl to just mark on the wall where I want to do some drilling. Little stud finder, the old Black & Decker one. The only hint I can give you with these little fellas, we'll do a couple actually. I always leave the battery out. I'll find if I leave the battery in there, I only use it once every 2 or 3 months, and if I leave the battery in there, it's dead next time I go to pick it up. So I've just got a little Duracell 9-volt battery there, but I just, when I'm not using it, unplug the thing and just leave it on top of it in the shelf on the shed. Little tip with this particular model, seems to zero itself when you turn it on. So if you sort of turn it on and then put it on the wall, you can't get all these false readings. Best way I found to use it is set it to stud, put it on the wall, then turn it on, let it zero itself, and then it'll give you a much more accurate reading for when you're finding studs and stuff in the wall. This one's quite good. It does stud, it does metal, it does AC wire. Metal's good for frames and stuff like that around windows, or just maybe there's some framing in the wall. Sometimes there's some plate if there's some cable or something like that running up the wall that you don't know about. And obviously the AC wire, you want to avoid that. And I believe this one does AC wire detection anyway, so even if you just got it set for stud, it'll still give you a warning that you run across some AC wire that you may or may not expect to be there. You know, obviously there's wiring, you know, sometimes it's not where you expect it to be. In the past I've used these little ram set hollow wall anchors. The wall's obviously just a plasterboard, so I normally, if I can't find a good spot to put the shelf anchor in the wall, I normally put one of these into the wall, and they sort of screw in, attach themselves to the wall, and then you can sort of drive in, and this will give you a really good hold. If you're hanging something like straight up and down like a wall frame or something like that, these little fellas are rated up to 10 kilos, but as we're just sort of wanting something to stop it pulling off the wall, it should, you know, it's enough to sort of stop the the shelf coming down sort of thing. And these are just some zinc plated washers. Sometimes when I get in behind the shelf, there's a gap, half an inch between the back of the shelf and the wall. So I use some washers to sort of fill that gap so that the shelf itself is nice and tight, but it's not necessarily on an angle pushed up right up against the back of the wall. Otherwise, the other thing I'm probably going to do is, because of the width of the thing, it'll probably go right up against the frame of the door. So I'll probably just end up using the coach screw, just drill a hole in the wall, pre-drill a hole, and then just go straight through one of the holes in the side of the shelf and just put a coach screw or two into the wall frame, the door frame. It's exactly what I've done on the other side, and it just works perfect. I may or may not bother doing one down the other end. I have one or two of those, and down this end, that might be all we need sort of thing. So we'll just see how we go there. I also noticed on this one, it actually has a wall mounting kit in it. The last time I did these ones was a couple of years ago, and they didn't come with the kits, and I noticed pretty much everything I've done lately, looked at, chest of drawers, that sort of thing, even just like the cubic bookshelves and stuff, they all seem to come with these wall attachment kits now, which is an awesome thing. The last thing you want is your kid to come along and try and crawl up on a bookshelf or something like that and pull the thing down on top of them, because it'll do some damage, if not worse. So I did notice on the box that it actually comes with a kit to stop itself from being pulled over, so it'll be interesting to see once we get inside it what that's all about. We might end up just using that instead. So that's what I've used in the past. So I've got a couple of packets of those for all the other shelves that we're going to be doing in the next couple of days, and we'll just see what's inside. So what I'm going to do is pull that box apart, lay all the bits and pieces on top of the dresser there, the box, and we'll just get stuck into it. So, just make some space down there. I find these things easier to build in place, as in build it where you want to use it. They can be a bit of a bugger to try and move across the floor or drag across the floor, and probably even twice as hard in here because we've got carpet in here, whereas out in the concrete of the shed wouldn't be that hard to drag across. But I reckon trying to drag this across carpet could get tricky. They tend to move around inside, so you never know where everything's going to be. Probably should have moved that. It's all good. Where is everything? All right. There's the front and back bits. More front and back bits. Side rail. Another side rail. Oh, so it's packed pretty well inside. Neat and tidy. Probably would have been better to lay it down and open up like a little box or something, but this will do. Shelves. I'll see them in a minute. Side rails. So that's it. Montgomery 5-shelf unit. 120 kilos per shelf, 600 total, 5 shelves. Powder coated, fully adjustable, heavy duty construction, floor protectors, 9mm MDF shelves. Yeah. So they do come with a pin, some of them do, some don't. I'll try and show you what I mean by that as we go along. 12-month warranty, made in China. And if you're playing along at home, item 2760466. So, like I said, my local Bunnings had these on special for about $60. And the smaller ones were $39. As an example, that Pinnacle one that I've got outside, it's a little bit wide. I think that was 1800 wide. But it was 150-ish. But still pretty good value. So, these are the side rails, upside down, and these things just go on the corners, so you can sort of see there, that's where a pin will go. So there'll be a pin that will there'll be one side rail set on top of another side rail, and there's a little pin that sort of goes in there that just kind of gives it a little bit more stability. And these eye hook things, I guess, that's where your brackets just drop into, and that's, you know, use your rubber mallet just to belt the brackets down into them. I think it's about 13, sorry. So I assume there's one down the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13. So put one there, start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So yeah, 13 apart. These are the side ones, these are the front and back ones. Pretty much exactly the same, obviously, apart from the length. And so you can sort of see at the end of these things, it's actually definitely a cheaper steel than the Pinnacle ones, but you know, less than half the price too, but that's okay. So that's the right way up with so that's your profile. And then you've got a ridge there, and the MDF shelf will just sort of fit into there. And these are the pins that just drop into the brackets. Like I said, quality wise, I can definitely feel the difference between this one and the ones I've used in the past. Having said that, give me 2 seconds. No. I can see a little marking on them, and I don't know if the camera will pick that up, that little triangle, couple of pyramids there. It looked a lot like the logo that I remembered for Pinnacle, which is the brand that I used for the other ones. I mean, I assume it's the same people that make all of them, and they just use slightly less great stuff for the cheaper stuff. So, okay, this is the little bag of tricks. So we've got some pins, you know, the pins that go hold everything together. That must be the wall hook. So I assume, not quite sure how that's meant to work, but we'll have a look at the instructions. Got a couple of things there, so we've probably got a couple of options for a wall mount. I'll look at that, or I might just use what I've already got, use what I know. So drilling a couple of coach bolts straight into the door frame seems to work pretty well. And that's just little protection to go on the bottom of the thing. So we might just start putting those together, and honestly then just get on with it and build the thing in place. So let's grab some of these. Bent. Bad start. Well, it's upside down anyway. But that's really easy to bend. So you know, I guess these things don't have to survive a nuclear strike. I'm just going to be holding up a couple of plastic boxes of Christmas decorations and a few other things around the shed, so considering the main job was to get stuff in here off the floor so we could start using this space, and same out in the shed. Oops, hang on. Oh no, that's right. Just noticed I had the holes for the pins at both ends, so I thought I was putting it in the wrong end. Learnt this when I was working at Harvey Norman's, and they had like 1,000 boxes every night to unpack and put on the floor. And you get these packing straps. And, you know, a lot of guys will sort of carry around folding knives, flip knives and that sort of stuff. Normally you can sort of see there's a little tab on it. You just peel that and the whole thing just rips straight open. Save yourself a lot of time. Easy. There are our shelving units. Just to give you a bit of an idea as to what we're going to be doing. So that'll go in that corner against the wall, and this unit, it's a side piece obviously, so it's going to go on this side. So the whole idea is put them in there, and then they just fall down into place like that. Give them a little tap with the mallet, although that fits pretty well anyway, so. Usually pretty easy to get the first couple in, then obviously once you sort of got to squeeze around the others are get a bit tight and tricky, but not too bad. Can be a lot easier to do this with someone else, but not that hard to get it done by yourself either. So let's just put a few of these together. Let the mallet go down there. It's easy to get one of the lugs in and have one poking out or sticking out. So you just got to make doubly sure that they're both in before you give them a whack. Otherwise, you can undo it again. Here's our first one. I like to put the shelves on as I go. Just gives it that little bit more stability. And again, these are just MDF. What's that? 8 mils maybe? 6 or 8 mils? Whatever that thickness is. I'd guess 8 mils. And they just got a little cut off on the corner. Just makes it really easy to put into the corner of the actual brackets. You're not sort of trying to fit something in that's exactly 90%, 90 degrees. So it gives you a fair bit of leeway to pop it in. And they just sit in and fit flush for those brackets as we showed you before. So let's do number 2. So instead come up 13. Notice one of the brackets has a little warning sticker on it talking about tip over, so I might leave that one on the outside, maybe a bit higher up so people can see it. No sense hiding that at the back. Yeah, no, it just seems to be that one. That's good. Some knob taps. Yes, son of a bitch. Yep. Well, this is where the cheap crappy part comes from. You can see there that it's actually broken off the lugs, which look like they're just riveted in or something, I don't know. And they've just sheared straight off. So, that sucks. What I might do is use that one here because I still want access to that light. So I'm not going to be putting a lot of stuff on this shelf, and assuming it's the only one that breaks, I'll either take this back to Bunnings or just get in touch with the guys and then get them to send another part out. I had a similar problem with some pins before, and they were more than good enough to pop a couple of pins in the post and send them out to me. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But anyway, cheap. Let's keep going. I know the other ones that I've been putting together, beat them, felt the bejesus out of them. Haven't had that happen. That's interesting. Anyway, get what you paid for. I think I showed you before, these are the pins. Not quite sure how well they're going to show up. They just kind of slide down there and more or less connect the two posts together. I mean, intuitively you'd think, that's not very strong. But it actually does a pretty good job. I'm basically just putting these, sliding them all the way through and just popping them into, feeding it into the other one. Alright, so still trying to work out, I don't want to put a weak one there. What I'll do is I'll put the second shelf there underneath the light, and we'll just have a bit more space up here for anything that's bigger. Yeah, it seems pretty solid. So I've just put the top one in with the first one on this one, and then the bottom one slides into what would have been the top bit on the bottom one. That seems a good thing to do. Yeah, I think I'll go back to what I was going to do in the first place. Put that one there, have a slightly smaller shelf on top, give me a slightly bigger one down underneath, and then just use that busted bracket, and then if I bother to get in touch with who made these things, Montgomery, whoever, Bunnings, and if they can send me a replacement bracket for the broken one, which I'm sure they will, having it there will be fairly easy to swap it out later on. So let's just do that. So you can see it's pretty simple. This has probably taken, what, 10 minutes, quarter of an hour? You're looking at the time and going, geez, it's taken you about an hour and a half so far, but no. They only take about 10-15 minutes once you get rolling on it. The trick I find to because it's easy when you first start doing these ones, the trick I find to make sure that you're not doing them inside out or put the brackets around the wrong way or upside down or whatever, because I did that a couple of times, is to look for that edge, like the edge where the bracket, the shelf is eventually going to sit. So you make sure that's at the top and on the inside, and everything else just kind of follows. Once you sort of remember to look for that, the rest of it's pretty simple. So I find building them in place, putting the shelves on as you go up. So these things are awesome. I said that the light one is fantastic. I use it all the time. Just don't need the weight of the other one. I reckon I'll either just screw that in, because there's a decent enough hole. I'll either just screw that or bolt it in, or get a rivet and just pop that in place. I said I'm sure Bunnings would have no troubles in replacing it, but last time it took a week or two for the thing to arrive. Whereas I can probably just do that in 5 minutes when I get the bits together. So let's wrap it up. Oh, I was going to put that there, wasn't I? Son of a bitch. Why didn't you say something? Let's see how easy they are to undo. Drop it down, easy as. And there's that nice warning there about the bracket, so happy with that. I reckon if that was up there, most people wouldn't see it. A few black marks on the wall from the mallet, but that's the way it is. Cautious now, I don't want to sort of hit it too hard because I'm worried about breaking the thing. But of course, when you're using something like a mallet or a hammer, you don't want to be hitting it. I reckon the best way to use a hammer or a mallet is to use the weight of the thing. So you're not hitting, just kind of lifting and then letting it fall where you want it to fall. Your hands just, you're guiding it, you're not striking it. You want a good way to bang some nails in without breaking them, that's a good way to do it. Just use the weight of your tools. There we go. Done. So, first thing I might do is go and get some cold water and think about how we're going to secure this thing to the wall. So it's going to take a quick break. I'll be right back.